So to use this RELOADoc, I have some federal papers. I take an empty hull and the decapper and I drop that right inside there, give it a wrap with the rammer hammer, and that's going to knock out the old primer. And then I can take the rammer, drop it back inside there. Now I can grab a primer, and you can get it started a little bit inside the hull right there, and then set it on top. And then there's this other tool here, and you see that's got the recess. Now that's so when that primer comes through the flash hole, the primer will go into that recess right there and you won't wreck your primer. Now I happen to have my favorite little hammer sitting around, so I'm going to use this, and it's just a couple of sharp wraps on there, and that's going to seat it flush with the bottom of the hull. So from here now, I'm going to use the wadding that I happen to have available. I would prefer to use some thicker felt wads or cork wads. I don't happen to have any of those on hand, so I'm going to use the wadding that I do. But first, I've got some powder in a little tub right here, and the Lee scoop. Now, they're going to give you a chart that tells you one level scoop is going to give you in grains the appropriate powder charge. So if you have a scale handy, double check that against the scale so you know by volume how many grains are actually going into this casing. And if you want to double check that, if you've got a much older load-out kit, check it against modern data to make sure that the powder charge is appropriate. But this tool itself serves as a little bit of a funnel. So you take your reprimed hull and you drop it into here. Now you're going to take your scooper and you're going to do one level scoop. You're going to drop that right in there. Now, I want to use a nitro card or an over powder card on top of that. So you can get that started here in your hull, and you can get it pushed down with your finger, and the rammer here, as you look down there, probably hard to see on the camera, but these things are a fairly snug fit that go in there, and you want to press that firmly down inside of there because you don't want any cocked over powder cards, or nitro cards if you prefer to use that term, that would allow powder to escape around the side of it. So it's got to be sitting in there flat, and make sure that's well seated. Now you're going to take your filler, however many, again, I would prefer to use cork wadding or felt wadding or something like that. I don't happen to have any of that on hand now for demonstration purposes, but I'm going to take the wadding that I do have, and I want to bring that column height up because I'm going to do a 1 1/8 ounce load, and I want to make sure that the column height is such that after I do my shot charge, I'm going to have an overshot card that goes into there, and then when I roll it, it needs to all be held firmly into place. So the column height has to come up. So this tool, you can set this in here, and you can use the rammer, and they're going to tell you actually when you push this in, you want to use a bathroom scale or something like that, and they're going to tell you with a chart in there how many pounds of pressure are going into that. So let's say 90 pounds. You got to press this in to make certain that you've got 90 pounds of pressure going onto that, because everything needs to be held very firmly into place. So let's say we got that accomplished now. Now we're going to take our scooper. The scooper is adjustable. When it's all the way closed like this, it's a 7/8 ounce load, and then as you pull this thing out, each click or each recess in the bottom of the scoop would give you an additional 7/8 to 1 ounce. The next click is going to be 1 1/8 ounce. The one after that, 1 1/4 ounce, etc. Now I'm going to do 1 1/8 ounce. So I'm at the second click. And I'm going to have a full level scoop. And again, use the tool, it serves as something of a funnel to have it all going inside the hull, and you won't end up with it all over your tabletop. So that's going to go in here now, and now you're going to take your overshot card, and that's got to go in top here, and you're going to take your rammer, and you can seat that just like that. Now, when you put this inside the tool, when you press down on this thing, what's going to happen is the mouth is going to start to fold in and roll. So when you push this down, I just push that hull to where it's pretty much flush with the bottom. Now you can take your rammer, and when you press down on this, it's going to take the mouth of that's now at this point, and it's going to bring it flat. So again, push down, you give it a fair amount of pressure, and when you pick it back up and you give it a little smack there, now you got yourself a shot shell. And the crimp on there, now that height, this thing is actually sticking up a little bit more, so I could put this back inside here, and I'd want probably a little bit more pressure on that. So that's part of the reason you want to make certain that when you put in your wadding, you're using the adequate amount of force. Because had I done that perfect, I didn't just use a scale just now, but had I done that, that would have came out spot on. Now the second time when I put that back in there and I pressed again, that is now, wow, that's a beautiful looking crimp. And these older hulls, these Federal papers, these load so well. You can load them 3 or 4 times, but after you've loaded them a few times, what happens, you get these little pinholes in there. And then you want to discard them from that point. But this thing does a great job. You can sit around a campfire, a little bit back from the fire if you're using powder, when you're out hiking, and make yourself some shot shells. How cool is that? Happy trails.